In this video, we discuss how to legally start a business. And I'm joined by business attorney and privacy professional at Roberts Law, licensed in the state of Florida, Josh Roberts. Welcome to How to Business. I'm Frederick Weiss, and in this video, we are talking with Josh Roberts, business attorney and privacy expert at Roberts Law, licensed in the state of Florida. Josh, welcome to the show.
Great to see you again, Frederick.
Great to have you. Josh, before we get to our subject, which I'm very excited to get to, would you mind providing us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a privacy professional, and I'm an attorney, business attorney in the state of Florida. And to the extent I have spare time, I enjoy running. I started my legal career as an AmLaw 200 litigation associate, which means I did a lot of legal research and writing, went to court often, argued motions, I was on a few trial teams. After a successful career as a litigator, my family moved from Miami to Sarasota, and I took an in-house position at a rapidly growing technology and communications company. 4 years of in-house work later, I've reviewed, drafted, negotiated countless contracts, agreements, and addendas. I've become a certified information privacy professional, which is a SIP US designation, and I was promoted to associate general counsel before leaving to hang out my own shingle with my wife and better half, who's also an amazing lawyer, practicing law with her at Roberts Law, helping businesses.
Excellent. Thank you for that context, Josh. You clearly know what it takes to get a business running and keep a business running successfully, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you about this topic, which is how to legally start a business. First off, why does someone need to legally start a business, Josh?
Sure. And I'll just say at the start, I love quotes. I love sayings. I love TV references. I'll try to weave them in and incorporate them as much as possible. Look, it allows me to stand on the shoulders of giants and also helps people kind of resonate with them and remember them better. So a couple of quotes or sayings to start off with for, how and when to start a business correctly. Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Avoid being a penny wise and a pound foolish. And it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So with that, and just a brief pause before getting into the substantive conversation, let me be a lawyer or nerd for a second and allow me to say the following disclaimer. Anything discussed here today is for informational purposes only and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. You should contact your attorney to obtain any advice with respect to any particular issues or problems that you may have. So apologies. With that out of the way, when going into business, whether you're doing it on your own, as a solo, with a friend, a colleague, a partner, it's important to get it right the first time and get it right quickly. And I'll give you two reasons for that, Frederick. The first I'll call the external benefit, and the second would be the internal benefit. External is the liability and asset. Depending on what type of business you form, partnership, not so much, but LLC and corporation, it allows you to protect yourself and your assets from liability. And the simple reason is because the law recognizes that certain businesses as being their own legal entity, and it's separate and apart from the underlying owners. So the sooner that you can get that done and get that legal recognition, the sooner that you can potentially protect yourself. The second being what I said, the internal benefit. This one's often overlooked. Really, it's knowing the rules. People get so excited to jump in with both feet and start the business. You get a handshake deal done. Let's be off and running. Let's get things done. And they don't necessarily consider what their partner's expectations are or how they're planning on running the business and whether they're planning on running the business the exact same way as they are. So it's really important when you're forming these businesses to kind of set the tone and have a meeting of the minds, get everyone on the same page for liabilities, have operating agreements, corporations have the correct bylaws. Are you going to get paid? Have a compensation agreement. What's expensible? By who? Who gets the company car? I'm being a bit glib, but stuff like that. Make sure you're on the same page.
That makes a lot of sense. So if I boil that down, it's basically something such as if something happens, no one's going to be able to take my home or my car because it doesn't belong to that entity. Is that correct? Would that be fair to say?
Yes, for the most part. And now let me be a lawyer, and you say things like there's a possibility of piercing the corporate veil and things of that nature, but that's kind of beyond today's primer. But yes, you're absolutely looking at it the right way. A good way to look at it is that when properly forming a legal entity, it allows you to protect yourself from the conduct of others. We generally can't protect ourselves from our own conduct, and that's why we have insurance. But forming a legal entity the right way, it allows owners to protect themselves from the actions of others within the organization.
Well, I'm sure what you're saying here is that seemingly obvious proactive logic, if you will, isn't so obvious to certain people, right? When we
Sure.
get excited about things like starting a business, we want to jump in the pool before we look to see if there's water. What do we do in those situations? How do we take some steps to prevent ourselves from jumping in a pool with no water, Josh?
And again, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but yeah, it really comes back to that rules discussion that I was mentioning. Have a substantive operating agreement, have bylaws, have the things of how the game plan, how the business is actually going to be run. Again, I was at a large technology company before going out on my own. I get it. Sales are important. Let's bring in revenue. We have an idea. Let's bring it to market. Let's work on it. Let's do it. But again, in another quote, a stitch in time can save nine. And another way to look at that is you can, by doing a little bit of legal work on the front end, you can save yourself a whole lot of money and hassle on the back end. There's certainly kind of those price performer legal services, such as making sure you have the right agreements in place with the other owners for how the business can get run. So with that, an example I like to use, let's stop using legal terms for a second. Let's talk Monopoly. I think everyone has played, but Frederick, have you played Monopoly?
Yes, and I always want to be the thimble, and if I'm not, I do get angry.
See, the arguments can start right there before you even start playing the game. But let me ask you this. Have you ever gotten into an argument while playing Monopoly?
Oh, yes, many times. I don't have enough fingers on my hand to count.
So I saw a statistic that 81% of partners who have played Monopoly have gotten into an argument. And why? Everyone knows the rules. It's a simple game. Everyone knows the rules, but somehow everyone's rules are slightly different. Let's call them house rules. And so someone might be playing a little bit differently. Also, everyone's working really hard. Everyone's got the same goal in mind. And yet somehow, despite working equally hard, different people end up with more money instead of us. So if people can get confused on board game rules, and if people can get jealous over fake, literally monopoly money in a board game, what can happen in an actual real life situation with business partners and business owners running a business. So that's why I love to use that as an example for just set the rules early and make sure that everyone is on the same page. You don't want to be that person who's calling me saying, hey, my partner or member at my LLC stole money from the company. I say, oh, wow, that doesn't sound right. What does your operating agreement say for how the money should be spent? And then just kind of, silence on the line, and it's a little disheartening. Business disputes are so difficult to litigate, and that's when even agreements are memorialized and signed in writing. Make sure you get it in writing, and so you don't have to worry about that on the back end.
Well, I think you made your point absolutely clear. Having that transparency will help deter any of these issues that could seemingly derail a business pretty fast. So, thank you for that summary of challenges, Josh. It's something to think about. So, Josh, the next thing I want to ask you about is the types of legal entities. What type of legal entities are there, and why should someone choose one over the other?
Sure. The way I would look at it is kind of the big four. You have sole proprietorship, general partnership, limited liability companies or LLCs, and corporations. And I'll start from basically the easiest to start and go to the most complex and just work our way through. The easiest being sole proprietorship. It's the simplest business in the world to start up. You don't need to file or register anything with the state. You simply do it on a pass-through taxation. It's done in your own personal tax return on your own Schedule C. That said, you're not filing anything with the state. You have no liability protection. You are the owner. You're liable for all debts of the businesses. And it can also be a hard business to sell afterwards because, again, it's just you. There's nothing down in writing. So again, summary, super simple, no registration, no protection. I'll do an ode to one of my favorite TV shows. For example, how to start up a sole proprietorship. I'm Josh Roberts, and I just decided to go into business. It's going to be doing business as a DBA. Vandelay, I'm going to import and export latex and latex-related goods. All sales pass through my own personal tax return, and if I mess up a latex order, I could be personally liable. So that's a sole proprietorship. Moving on, general partnership. Very similar to sole proprietorship. Perhaps an oversimplified way of looking at it is it's a sole proprietorship for 2 or more people. You're in business together to share the profits and share liabilities. Again, super simple, nothing to file. You're not required to file anything with the state. You can, but it's not a requirement. It could simply be a handshake deal or not even a handshake, and you two are off and running and doing business. That said, no liability protection, no protection. And what you have here is the legal word for it is joint and several liability, meaning that you could be 100% responsible for the actions of your partner. Again, super simple. How to formulate a general partnership. Frederick, my name is Josh. I've decided that I would like to import and export latex and latex-related goods. Frederick, do you want to be my latex salesman? We'll split the profits 50-50.
Sounds good.
Perfect. That's it. We just formed a partnership. It's literally like the movie Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and John Riley. Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Gotcha.
Did you and I just form a partnership? Yep. As scary as that might be, we just did it. So moving on, the next one, limited liability company. This is what I like to look at as kind of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This is the one that's, for most businesses, just right. There's a little bit extra work on the front end, but you do get a lot more options on the back end. So again, LLCs are the most popular entity type. They provide personal liability protection. They require less formalities than a corporation, and they have the ability for the most flexibility in tax treatment. So for example, if you're a single member, you can be taxed as a sole proprietor, have it go right through on your regular tax return. For multiple members, you can have it through a C Corp designation. You could also elect for an S Corp designation. I won't go too much into the details with that, but C Corp being the standard corporate tax election, you're taxed on the net profits. S Corp, you can avoid the double taxation and also called pass-through taxation. But again, it just gives you these extra taxation elections that you can do through being an LLC. A little bit of the lingo to go with LLCs: owners, they're called members. They're managed by their members, their authorized members or their managers. And the formation, this is the part where now you're getting different from the sole proprietors and the general partnerships. You do have to file documents with the Division of Corporations. In Florida, that's going to be sunbiz.org. You're just going to go online. You're going to file articles of organization. It's a relatively simple document. It's going to be your name, place of business, mailing address, registered agent, who your authorized representatives are, and who can bind the company. That's important. Banks do look at that, so make sure you're putting the right people who you actually trust and want to be recognized by your banks as making you responsible. Pay a fee. I think it's currently $125 in Florida. And you've started an LLC. Now, keep in mind remember monopoly. I highly would recommend an operating agreement. That's an internal document that sets out the rules so everyone's on the same game page. Same game plan. You get Frederick, you get to be the thimble. I'll be the top hat. You'll be the thimble. World domination through Vandelay Industries.
Fair to me.
If we're having compensation, I have a compensation agreement. We should have quarterly meetings to discuss the thimble, the top hat, but also our finances, our revenue, our income, and our expenses. And again, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. Last but not least, corporations. This is the most complex to start, but it's still doable. It does require a separate tax return. Florida has a 5.5% standard corporate tax. There are exemptions, minimum tax rate of 3.3%. Again, though, you're getting that asset protection by starting the legal entity separate and apart for yourself and registering it with the state. You're getting that protection by doing this. Owners are shareholders. They're managed by their board of directors. The formation, again, very similar to the LLC. Instead of having articles of organization, you're going to have articles of incorporation. Same type of information is going to be on there. You'll pay your fee to the state. I believe it's $70 right now in the state of Florida. There are additional documents that are not filed, but corporations do require. They do require bylaws. Again, we were mentioning that before. Think about the monopoly. Make sure that you have an actual blueprint for how the corporation is run and managed. You can also have shareholder agreements as well.
Oh, that's really enlightening, Josh. Thank you so much for that context. The privacy protection alone in those kind of entities is really something to consider, especially when you're thinking about what certain type of business you may want to run. But Josh, we're getting to the end, and I really want to ask you about the services that Robert's Law provides. Do you mind giving us a little bit of context?
Absolutely. We're seasoned business lawyers. We help businesses of all sizes. That means we help businesses with formation, just like we've been discussing today. We help businesses with dispute resolutions. We help businesses with their contracting needs. On those lines, we do privacy consulting as well. As I mentioned, I am SIP US certified with the state of privacy laws in the United States right now. States that are having their own privacy laws, think California with the CCPA, CPRA, Nevada, Virginia, Colorado. We help local businesses identify what laws would apply to them. Think online and having a website where you're doing business. And additionally, we offer bankruptcy services. We help businesses preserve their rights and maximize payments to be received. So again, we're business lawyers, but more specifically, that's what we help out our business clients with.
Excellent. Thank you for that context, Josh. And Josh, where can people find out more about Robert's Law? What's the website, etc.?
Sure thing. The website, it's under my wife's name, kellyrobertslaw.com, Kelly. Also my email, please reach out to me, josh@kellyrobertslaw.com. And also I'm on LinkedIn. Let's connect. I love connecting with new people.
Excellent. And we'll provide all those links in the show notes. And finally, Josh, I'd like to provide you with an opportunity for some closing words of wisdom.
Sure. I told you I love quotes. So two of them come to mind. One, nobody's perfect and we're not going to get everything right all the time. But the best we can do is, make the best decision possible with the information that we have at that time, and things will generally be okay. And then the second one, this could be used more often in the legal profession, but it really strikes a chord with me. Kindness is free. Sprinkle it on everything.
I love that. That is excellent advice. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show. Super appreciate it and providing such excellent advice. I'm over the moon thankful. Thank you so much. Josh Roberts, everybody. Josh, thanks.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you.